Depression has got to be treated like any other ailment in life, physical or mental. So most people would just say, just pick yourself up. It's not that bad. Just get over yourself. It's not as easy as that. And people say it's all in your head. Of course, it is on your head, and that's the problem. DSM criteria of major depressive disorder, which is a diagnosis criteria for depression. So the main one that everybody has to have to be diagnosed with depression is a depressed mood. So you must have that, and also 5 other symptoms of depression as well. This doesn't just mean like feeling sad all the time. For me, a lot of the time it felt feeling nothing. Sometimes you just feel like you've lost all your emotions. You can't feel anything. You can't feel happiness. You can't feel sadness. You can't feel anger. You can't feel anything. And when you're kind of going through that, sometimes it's a wonderful feeling because you're not feeling anything and you just don't care. It's kind of blissful in an odd way, especially if you've been feeling down for quite some time. To feel nothing at all, quite great. But then again, you can't feel anything good either. So you can't feel happiness. You can't feel, any joy out of anything. And that's quite sad. And you just don't know when it's going to stop either. You don't know when you're going to get out of it, if you're ever going to feel again. And so that's quite terrifying. And you're going through this kind of emotional state. And you can also be quite irritable as well. So people just get on your nerves and everything is just irritating to you. And you cannot settle either your environment. And you can also become quite like lethargic and lazy as well, which is also another symptom. And most people just think like, oh, you're just being lazy because you're a lazy person. But it's actually the depression that's making you feel like that. So you just have no energy. And that was the main thing I was feeling all the time, was just everything took so much anything to speak, to say a word would require so much energy that I felt like incredibly tired and I had to go to sleep. It was, that's how extreme it can get. It's unable to speak, unable to move. And a lot of people, I didn't have it this badly, but a lot of people, when they have depression, they can't get up from bed, they can't get in the shower, they can't clean their room, they can't do anything to function, they don't have a routine, they can't get out the house. And if you stay like that, obviously it's just going to get worse and worse. So another symptom, according to the DSM, is a decreased interest or pleasure in most activities. So this, for me, didn't have any interest in anything really. Nothing really appealed to me. And so that impacted me by not going to college. So I pretty much had such a bad attendance that I got called in from the college, and they were telling me that if my attendance continues to drop, then they will kick me out eventually. And so that was my pleasure and interest, was learning. And for me not to go into college to learn, to be around people, it just really didn't interest me. And actually I feared college quite a lot. I just got in the routine of not going, that I just got I just didn't feel comfortable there, so I just didn't attend. So that was one of the decreased interests. But then that again can happen with anything you're into. For me, it was art as well. I love to paint and things like that, and I did that for one of my A levels, and so my work was not very good because I couldn't be bothered to fill the pages of my sketchbook. So that was one activity that I was again not really interested in. Another symptom is a increased or decreased weight change. So either within that time you eat a lot to kind of cope, or you just don't eat anything because you're just not interested in food. That didn't happen with me, but it does happen with a lot of people, especially people that feel that they're fat anyway, or have other comorbid mental illnesses like bulimia or anorexia. So that works there. Another symptom is a change in sleep. So you can either have insomnia or you can have hypersomnia. So insomnia, obviously, you can't sleep and you're just up all the time, or hypersomnia, is where you're constantly sleepy. I guess the change in sleep, I didn't really have that so much. It was more tiredness all the time, but that was because of another symptom, which is a loss of energy or fatigue. So that also another symptom is guilt or worthlessness, which I think is another really common one. And you do feel guilty for everything, that's happened to you in life. You feel like you are to blame for a lot of things. And you also feel quite worthless as well. Like you don't feel great. So you just criticize yourself quite a lot of the time and think that why do you deserve to be here? And why does anything good that happens to you deserve to happen to you? And things like that. So that's not great, obviously. Concentration, that's another symptom. So diminished ability to think or concentrate. Yes, that's I guess something I experienced in college. I just couldn't be bothered to listen in lessons. I find it very hard to concentrate. Constantly just wanted to get out and go home a lot of the time. And thoughts of death or suicide, it's another symptom. Also, I did have this symptom, and most people think it's the worst symptom to have, and obviously it's the most terrifying. I think for somebody going through depression, it's one of those kind of thoughts that kind of gives you relief, because you feel like it might end soon and you're going to stop to all this pain, and you just think it's for the greater good. And so people in this stage, even though it didn't really go very far for me, it was still a lot of suicidal thoughts and planning suicides as well, which is another thing, like finding ways to do it. So looking around the house for lots of pills or sharp objects, things like that, and then writing things like suicide notes, tidying your room so that relatives don't have to have a struggle kind of going through all your belongings and things like that. So yeah, that's quite a lot of the symptoms I've just mentioned. But also there could be like coexisting things that people go through with depression as well. So you could have other mental illnesses, or you can have physical ailments as well. With depression, like there's no way of understanding where it's really come from. Nobody knows how it comes about. Sometimes it's more obvious than other times. So you could say it's because of a death of a loved one, and that's caused depression, and that's probably quite likely. But then you have like things like genetic factors and things like that could play into that, and some people just don't understand why it happens. So there doesn't always have to be a reason with depression, and I can't really pinpoint mine either. So then you just can't say it's because of this, it's because of that, because sometimes it's just there is no reason. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. I think a lot of people think that there must be a reason, otherwise you're not depressed.
Depression for me kicked in at the onset of adolescence, especially in school when worries about getting girls and all that came across. And for me, instead of focusing on work, that became like my main concern. And due to my Asperger's syndrome and due to not having any experience with anything like that before, I experienced a lot of rejection and a lot of humiliation because of that. And that was really the big onset for my depression, which would take me through a couple of really dark times in the coming years. Because of this depression kicking in, my results, I was quite a good student, just nosedived really badly, to the point that when I was in 5th year, which is the Irish equivalent to year 11, I dropped out halfway through with no GCSEs or anything. Because of how low I was feeling about myself and knowing that I left school with no GCSEs, I turned to drinking at the start, maybe a couple of cans of beer every weekend, and then it just became a daily thing. Like, anytime I was bored, I would drink, and then I started smoking as well, and it just became a constant need for me to do this. Relationships kind of came and went, and a few of them ended due to my drinking and my drinking habits and my behaviour when I was under the influence of alcohol. Educationally, it made me struggle as well. When I was in college in Belfast at 19, I still continued to drink quite a lot during days that I should have been in college, and the ensuing hangovers made me miss college, and I eventually had to drop out and got no qualifications from it. Because of that, for 3 years after that, 2 years after that, I was doing nothing. I was sitting in the house on benefits, but I was so depressed to the point that I wouldn't even show up to the benefits office, so I wasn't even getting the money that I was meant to get. I was just so demotivated. I didn't want the job. I didn't want anything, any education. I kind of just sat there feeling sorry for myself most days. I did go out with friends, but that was mainly based around drink. And even if my friends weren't getting drunk, I would get drunk. And my behaviour was just very erratic, sometimes violent, sometimes just weird, under the influence of alcohol. A big turning point for me though was moving to Wales. My depression, it's still present, but I feel like it's controllable now. My opinion of myself has went way up. I feel more motivated to do work. I've actually been churning out more work than I had been doing when I was a good student in school, and everything feels like it's kind of on the up. But the thing about depression is it's not something you can cure. You have it and that's it. You're always going to have it, but you can find good ways of managing it. And I believe that if you have depression, alcohol and any other substances should be kept as far away as possible, because it just makes it worse, seeing as alcohol is a depressant. I still get my down moments. I still get my moments of being like, what's the point in being here, and feeling low because of work and the pressure it has, but I've managed it better. I've never went back to drinking quite as much. In fact, I'm actually going through the process right now of quitting it completely, because I feel like it's literally done nothing to my life to enhance it or anything. It's actually just made it worse. That's just my story of depression in relation to how drinking just kind of made it worse.